My name is Matthew Connolly. I'm one of the career counselors here in the Office of Career Services. Obviously, today is the Careers in Music Virtual Career Panel, and we're excited to provide you this opportunity, especially with everything going on in this day and age. We are here for you. Just a quick reminder before we really dive in, if you need help with anything career services related, we are open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. We, at this point, are on an entirely virtual format, as you know. And to schedule an appointment, you just have to call our office at 508-531-1328. We'd be happy to help you there. So just to give you kind of a schedule of how this is going to go down today. So we're going to run a panel discussion for about 40 minutes where I'm going to be guiding those questions. Like I said, to any new arrivals here, please mute your microphones. If you don't mind, we'd appreciate that. I'll do some brief introductions. If you want to just raise your hand, I'll go by a first name basis, and then I'll let you introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started. I'm also joined today by Katie Vagan, my colleague. So she's here for any technical support questions. So if you have anything additional, she's here as well. And obviously Dr. Sarah McQuarrie is here also. So thank you, panelists, for being here today. We do appreciate it. I'll start left to right. We got Nick, corner. We have Jessica, and we have Amanda. So if we want to just go through, you want to introduce yourselves, kind of just give us a rundown of, your role, and then we'll get started into our questions.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Nick Rice. I am serving in the Army Band in Washington. That's the state of Washington. I went to Bridgewater State, graduated in 2012. I graduated with a performance degree, classical guitar. I play bass guitar now for the Army Band, and I've been doing this for almost 6 years.
Awesome. All right, who wants to be adventurous first, Amanda or Jessica?
I'll go. I am Jessica Fuller, and I am the choral and theater director at Plymouth Community Intermediate School. I've been there for 13 years. I graduated from Bridgewater in, 2006 with a degree in music performance. And then I went back, did the APB program, and got my master's in music ed.
Awesome. Amanda, you're on mute.
Am I good now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, it's being finicky, or it's just user error. I don't know. My name is Amanda Reopell. I graduated from BSU in 2010. It's been so long. I had I majored in performance and voice, and I had a psych minor because in my junior year, I decided I wanted to become a music therapist. So I tried to take as many psychology classes as possible before leaving. I went on to Arizona State University and received my clinical master's in music therapy there in 2012. And I have been working at the Conservatory as a board certified music therapist since 2014. So been in the field almost 7 years now.
Awesome. Well, thank you to all three of you. This event's especially important today because all three of our panelists are BSU alums, and they're here to help you. So please, at the end of this session, when we get to questions, don't be shy. So let's dive in. And feel free to, if you have any thoughts on any of the questions, you can chime in whatever order, whenever you're comfortable with the questions as they go. So let's get started. So describe your career path and how you got to where you are today. I guess we'll have Nick start us off again.
Sure, sounds good. So I, in middle school, started playing bass guitar. Shortly after that, formed a jazz combo, and started gigging in 9th grade. So I was working as a bass guitar player in a jazz combo semi-professionally for 4 years before Bridgewater. And then I got to Bridgewater and realized that I knew a little bit about an incredibly little bit. So the wonderful professors there just rounded me out enough that I was able to leave and actually get a job playing music. I talked to some other people who have been through military bands before and got like kind of a preview of what that life is like, much like we are doing right now. And then I went through the audition process, which was very specific, which I can go more into that later. And then went through basic training, then went to the Army Music School, then went to West Texas, where I got to go on a little trip to Kuwait and Iraq separately, and then spent the last couple of years in Korea, playing for Korean civilians mostly, and then some higher dignitaries and stuff like that. The ambassador, Harry Harrison, always thought that was a funny name. And then I just recently moved here to Washington State and just playing bass guitar, mostly in jazz combos, but a lot of rock band stuff. And then some of it is doing like teaching and whatever they need. Yep, fun.
Awesome. Well, your music journey has certainly helped you travel far and wide, so that's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jessica.
So I actually started my music college career at Berklee College of Music. At the time, there was one of 3 schools in Massachusetts that had the option for a music therapy degree. I got to Berklee, and as I, started studying, music therapy and, looking at some of my options, I decided that I wanted to go to music. I wanted to go into music education. And at that time, as a classical vocalist, it was kind of a silly option for me to be at Berklee. So at that time, I had switched to Bridgewater. And it really, and to be honest with you, my plan wasn't to stay at Bridgewater. My plan was to maybe look into a conservatory, but I loved it so much. And I really felt that I was getting, a well-rounded education and some wonderful opportunities while I was there. And now, my senior year in college, I had gone to a private high school, and midway through the year, their choral director had to quit. She had a medical issue, so they couldn't find anyone, and they called me up, and it was really just for 2 classes, and they said, "Would you be willing to teach?" And I said, "Well, I didn't have a teaching degree. I was, maybe 4 or 5 years older than some of their students." But I went in and I loved it. And I'm in my senior year of college, and I was majoring in performance. And I finished that up, and I ended up getting a job teaching at Plymouth Community Intermediate School once I graduated, and then from there got did the APB program and got my master's degree in music education from BSU, and it's been a wonderful journey, and I've met some wonderful people and have learned so much along the way.
Awesome. A lot of hard work involved, but a lot of times with all industries, especially any creative type of profession, right place, right time. Those lucky breaks happen. You just got to ride that wave when they come. Absolutely. So, Amanda?
All right, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of this. So as I mentioned earlier, I kind of stumbled onto music therapy when I was a junior at BSU. So I had gone through a lot of classes at this point to start over again. So an undergrad, say at Berklee, or at this time, I think Berklee and Lesley had undergrad programs. There was no accelerated programs available on the East Coast, because this was about 2008 into 2009. So as I mentioned, I looked into what would be required. I took on a psychology minor. So at BSU, I took Intro to Psych, Child, Psych Abnormal, Developmental Psych, and Social Psych. If you look into the music therapy degree, that is required to have an undergrad degree or even the master's level. So I kind of tried to jumpstart it so I could transfer the credits. And I was accepted Arizona State University. So I went on a little bit of an adventure after I left Bridgewater. And I did a virtual audition actually for that. That was before this day and age of virtual. Moved out to Arizona, obtained my clinical master's degree, which if you do a little research, clinical master's is different from an advanced master's. I cannot teach at a university with a clinical master's. If I wanted to teach at university or college, I'd have to go for another year to receive my advanced master's. This is just good to know. And then after I was finished at ASU, it was an accelerated program, so it was a year of lots of hard work. You have to know if you want this, I will say that. You have to know you want to do anything and just keep at it. It was a tough year. And after I received my degree, you have to take a 6-month internship, and I was very lucky. I got back to the East Coast. I interned at Seasons Hospice right here in Newton, Massachusetts, and that's for 6 months. And after I finished my internship, you have to take your board certification exam. So it's very similar to nursing or even becoming a teacher, that they have to take all of their exams. We are expected to pass. And this is something the questions are from any part of your education. So it's a vast exam. And then after I passed, I was hired a month later, part-time, by Roman Music Therapy Services right here in Melrose and South Shore Conservatory in Duxbury and Hingham. And since then, I have become more full-time at South Shore Conservatory, which is great because I'm originally from Plymouth, and traveling to the Melrose area was a little tough.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where I am now. So
awesome. Well, that was a nice Reader's Digest version. Thank you.
Tried.
And that's actually a really good prelude into our next question here. So obviously, you know, there's education piece involved with any major that you're going to go into, but any of the creative arts and professions, particularly like, you know, fine arts, visual arts, and music, there's a lot more involved than just the education piece that goes into it, honing and building your skills. So how do students best prepare themselves for a career in music, whether that be education requirements, experience, skills, etc.?
I guess I'll go first again, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The amount of education that I do is less to the people that are like conventionally like students, like going to teach a lesson. I've done that a few times, but that's not usually what I do. Usually what I'm doing is teaching an audience to help them digest what we're doing a little easier. And then also with the career that I'm in, people will come from literally everywhere. And it's a constantly just teaching about what I know and learning about what they know. And so being able to communicate is like huge, absolutely huge. And then as far as music goes, not only being able to play competently in any way that could be asked of you, but being able to lead and rehearse groups too is huge. So not only seeing yourself as that person in the group, but the person in the group leading the group at the same time, and then just all the things that you could imagine, all the things that you would need for that, like, are totally necessary. Did that mostly answer the question?
No, that does. Sounds like a bit of a juggling act too.
Sure, it is.
Yeah.
Yep, can be.
Jessica?
So I think the best way to prepare for a career in music education is to get into classrooms. You know, start getting in, you know, to classrooms even in your freshman year of college. The more you watch, the more you learn. when you go into a classroom, be willing to get up, be willing to lead warm-ups, be willing to help that teacher. I still remember the first time I went into a classroom. I was a freshman in college, and the teacher had said they were working on the Star Spangled Banner, something easy that I could do, and he said, will you help us? And I got up, and that was my first teaching experience. And that's what it's about. When you are in a classroom observing, speak to that teacher ahead of time. Say, is there anything I can do? The more hands-on experiences, the better. And another skill that is very necessary, especially nowadays, is being adaptable, being able to flip the switch, put on a new hat. It's about being ready for everything and anything.
Thank you. And Amanda.
All right. So I focus kind of on just music therapy. As far as like musical skills, we're really looking for basic skills in guitar, piano, and voice. You don't have to be a professional singer. We're just looking that you can keep tonality and have a pleasant voice. And most musical people do. And then just as I mentioned before, a career in music, in order to become a professional, you can just have a bachelor's degree. It is not required that you have a master's, although I do lean towards encouraging those to get their master's because it has been discussed as becoming a requirement, because we are trying to stay on the same level as a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, or speech and language, because we're not always valued at the same level as they are, and we really should. So we do encourage people to continue their education. Because I did an accelerated program, I luckily have my master's already for that journey. So I do encourage folks to keep continuing their education. And then, of course, you have to take your internship, as I mentioned, pass the board certification, and you actually research every 5 years. So we are always continuing our education. I just recertified you. In those 5 years, you have to get 100 approved credits, continuing education credits. And these are things you would learn, obviously, coming into the profession. And I just want to kind of reinforce what Jess and Nick said earlier. You really have to be flexible in this world, and communication is key. We work with all people of different abilities and ages, as we do in music education and performance and our backgrounds. So get involved in the classroom. I go into classrooms, and yes, be flexible, because as we know, this world is continuously changing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and each music profession is going to have different requirements and different processes to get to where you want to be. But I think the common theme here is, like you just said, Amanda, getting involved, whether it's a musical instrument or you're into vocals, just immersing yourself in your craft and developing your skills. And additionally, just immersing yourself in the networking aspect of it as well, because in order to build a career, you are going to have to network with others to really get your foot in the door for any industry. So thank you, all three of you. So moving on to the next question. So describe a typical day in your job and really how you utilize that background experience that you just went into to really create as like a foundation for your work.
So a typical day is I'm just gonna use today because I just finished. So this morning I actually got my first chance at the new PT test. So we do 6:30 workouts every single day. Today happened to be my test. So that was 6:30 to 8. Then 9:30 was rock band rehearsal. And rock band rehearsal was we're gonna get ready for just honing in, arranging, making sure like we're both learning songs as like cover bands type stuff, and we're making plans. We're talking to the sound engineer. We have there's a Army band sound engineer. Same as there's an Army band vocalist, same as there's an Army band bass player. And so we went through all of our holiday set that we're going to be performing here pretty soon. First Corps Army band. Let me get my plug in, right? And then lunchtime, so like an hour and a half of lunch. That's just on your own. And then come back at 1300, 1 o'clock for the non-military types, right? And then the rest of the day was getting ready for our dress rehearsal for the big holiday concert, which is going to be like a 2-hour extravaganza. So we're going to like rent out a big old hall, and it's all going to be televised and super professional. And there's going to be small groups. I'm also in the jazz combo too. So tomorrow's going to be a big long jazz combo rehearsal that I had to prepare for, and make sure that all the equipment is ready to go. We're also doing like all the staging for ourselves too. So making sure that all the trussing systems, the lighting systems are good to go, and helping people with that. And then at the very end of the day was some of the NCO stuff, which is trying not to use acronyms. All we do is acronyms all the time. Sorry. So that's, as a senior musician, part of my job is mentorship. So it's a lot of that is just getting that one-on-one time and then mentoring people on everything, right? Like, so there's the soldier stuff where I get to help them get better at all those X factor things, the communication, the jumping out there, like how do you get trained on that, and then I get to put them in uncomfortable situations and watch them do amazing things. And then that's my whole day. That was today. Yep.
Nice. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Yep.
So I'm going to share a typical non-COVID. So we're going to go back to last year because I don't want to scare anyone.
Can we stay there? 2019?
Absolutely not. So, and we can, if people have questions later, right now I'm teaching choral music essentially without singing because of COVID, but I'll be happy to talk more about that after. But a typical non-COVID day, you go in, I'm going into the classroom, preparing for my day before the students come in. Typically all teachers have a morning duty, which essentially is, standing out in the hallway, greeting the students. And although, this part of the day is, thoughtless to me, you just go out there and stand there. The kids really do enjoy walking by, saying good morning. They tend to kind of cling on to their specialist teachers. So it's nice to see kids come in every morning. On a typical day, I teach 5 classes. So right now I have 8 sections of choral music, 2 of exploratory, which is a new class for us, but I'll teach 4 sections of chorus one day. And then exploratory music is similar to general music, but our district decided this year that instead of taking general music throughout the year, 6th grade students would rotate between a taste of choral vocal, strings, and band, which they're also doing some percussion ensemble stuff in there as well. And so, it's teaching, and typically my classes are pretty much back to back. I teach this year 4 hours in a row, and then I have another class at the end of the day. So it's just being able to do a lot of juggling. One second you're teaching, 8th graders that may be more advanced, and then you're going to exploratory, which is certainly more beginners. And then on a typical year, not this year, we have our after-school programs and preparing students for festivals or a big thing that you'll see in a lot of schools is theater. And I have a very, very big theater program. We have typically 130 students involved in our productions each year. I do recommend, for those students going on music education, start getting into the theater stuff if you're not already in there, specifically how to direct a show. I would be happy to help anyone with this, but Music Theater International is a huge go-to. It provides you with a kit to put on a performance. And it is, though, the school day is very important. The after school is such a big thing in our school community. And really, the expectation, the untold expectation for music teachers is that you do have these extracurricular opportunities for the kids. And this year being, a COVID year, we're unable to offer these opportunities, which has been, a sore spot for myself and a lot of students. But that's pretty much a typical day. And just on the theater piece, if anyone would like any to see any of the productions, I do have recordings, and I'd be happy to share that or any resources that I have.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. I think you're, oh, there you go.
I know, I've learned to give it a second
before
I keep clicking. So a typical day, I'm going to be like, Jess, I'm going to go back to March. I'll never forget it. March 16th, because all my schools where I go to see little pre-K kiddos closed down. So let's see, typical day. My days would vary. So I could have 3 or 4 sessions a day. And let's see, how my Monday used to be fun. I used to go down to Borndale, and I would go see some pre-K kiddos. So I had 3 classes there and a behavioral class. So 3 of the mainstream kiddos, so they would be about class of 10 preschools. And then the behavioral class would usually be about 6 to 8 students. And they would have various behaviors like autism, some delays, some cerebral palsy. And with that, with those classes, we would just keep it fun. I do a lot of movement activities. We use a lot of fun classroom props like colorful scarves, stretchy band. It's a lot of fun. And of course, various children's songs. And then from pre-K, I would actually go to the other end. I would go over to the assisted living. And I work a lot in memory care facilities. As I work for a community music school, so we do have a variety of clients we work with, but my internship being at Seasons Hospice, I tend to get a lot of our nursing home contracts and assisted living contracts because it's my first love. I love that population. So I would typically have 2 groups at the memory care unit. We contract with Linden Ponds, so I would see both floors, and the group range would be, we love a group of 12, but you're working with an assisted living, so it might be like 20 people, and that's okay. You get used to it. You stand up a lot. I don't sit. I get offered chairs all the time, but I don't sit. I move a great deal. So if you're learning guitar, get used to standing and playing your guitar or your ukulele. Get comfortable with that. I typically, like I said, I play piano, but we can't travel with a piano so much. So I love my guitar and ukulele. So I'd go from the assisted living. I might travel to one of our campuses and see some individual clients. And my individuals, they range in age as well. I see children that are 2, 3 years old because we contract with early intervention programs, all the way up to a gentleman that was 101 in our handbell choir. Again, we're a community music school, so we have a chime choir as well. So that would be a typical day, and I might end my day on campus. I might have, on a Monday, I had 4 individuals right back all in a row, sorry, back to back. And then we would end with an hour of our percussion commotion group. I co-run that with the head of our percussion department, who is wonderful. And that's a program geared for young adults with some developmental delays. So the age range for that is 19 to 25 years old. And right now we have 6 members in our percussion commotion. And that group's a lot of fun. It's like a rock band group. We have drum set, we have marimba, we have djembes, we have keyboard, it's microphone if someone's feeling like they want to sing. So yeah, that would be a typical day. I'd start with the preschool and end with the 22-year-olds. So yeah.
Yeah, hectic day for sure. I almost forget. I always forget how many instruments there are. The closest I've ever been to playing an instrument was the Rock Band video game. But so with everything going on, we are now at the dreaded question about COVID. So with everything going on with COVID, how does your particular job market in the music industry look like? And what are the most, and to Jessica's point about adaptability, what are the most important qualifications for entry-level candidates, especially now?
I'm going to talk about the COVID one first. So COVID, the day-to-day actually hasn't changed too much because we're all considered essential federal employees. But the other side of that is that I have that I'm not going to get fired, like security thing, which is like talk about peace of mind. It's like during these times is huge, and I am totally never going to understand how much I should appreciate that. So the day-to-day stuff has not changed much, but our mission, or our performance count has drastically reduced. And because it has reduced so much, we usually get tasked to do things like scan 4 heads in front of an important building or something like that. But really, out of 45 to 50 people in my unit, it might be 2 people a day. It isn't that big of a drain, and it's not that big a deal. It's actually nice to get out of the office and talk to some new people. But as far as COVID goes, for those performances, a lot of those have been online. They've been virtual, which it's actually opened up a new world. Like, we've been forced into this to come up with solutions for now, but we'll be able to use this forever. So when someday post-COVID land happens, we can continue on with these virtual things. Right now, I'm working up like a write-up for doing like masterclass lesson type of things that I'm hoping to get going super, super fast. And because we don't have all those extra missions, we do have time to work on these projects that have just been itching at us. And then you were talking about another question too, like
yeah. So what are the most important qualifications for entry-level candidates?
So entry-level candidate, most important thing is because it is the Army or any military band, there is some type of fitness thing to it. So you have to fit within you have to be able to pass the PT test, whatever that is. And it's different for every branch. And then there's weight and height requirements. And other than that, it's all music, which is great. And then we have what's called an AMPA, Army Music Proficiency Exam assessment. AMPA, yeah, assessment. And you could look it up online or YouTube, some videos. There should be some out there. I think the music school puts them out there. But I just wrote down real quick. they're testing you. They grade 1 to 6: rhythm, technique, harmonic accuracy, style, expression, and musical preparation in those categories. And they do that for every single instrument, including a mixing table, right? So I think somebody mentioned something about musical engineer, like a sound engineer. That is considered an instrument too, and they'll be tested on those same criteria in their own way.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So I want to specifically touch on how my job has changed since COVID and how I really have had to be flexible. So the guidelines came out, I think it was in July, that we're not allowed to sing in the building. Singing can be done outside with masks at 10 feet apart, or masks encouraged. So I mean that was a big deal because my job is choral music more so than any type of general. So my principal decided we're going to give her a Chromebook card. So I had a card of 31 Chromebooks built into me, and I couldn't do it. Kids come to this. My program is about retention. And so I had to come up with a way that I could kids singing, and that's my challenge right now. So every morning I get to school about 45 minutes than I normally would, and I have a setup. I have a new keyboard bag. I bring that outside. I have a sound system. If it rains, I'm in trouble because that means I have to repaint the 10-foot markings on the grass because we have to be 10 feet just in case. But it's a challenge. I can't hear the kids very well, and a large part of my job as a choral educator is formative assessment. So when I can't hear what they're singing, it's very hard to assess. Today, just as our chorus class started, the landscaping guy drove up and he takes out his weed whacker, and apparently there were a lot of weeds behind my area. And 20 minutes later, we all laughed and said it's done. And then he pulled out a leaf blower, which was like 10 times louder. But each day, right this year, I feel like it's my first year of teaching. But at the end of each class, we have a class discussion. How are you feeling about this? This is certainly different. Typically at this time of year, we're doing 3-part, maybe even more with some Debussy repertoire. Right now, I'm lucky if I can add a 2-part song in there. But the kids want to sing, so I need to come up with a way to make this work. Not sure yet what we're going to do in the winter, but it's one day at a time. But I've watched a lot of choral educators, hand out those Chromebook cards and switch everything over to technology. I'm not ready to do that. As a middle school student, if that's what was happening in my choral class, the best part of my day would be ruined. So this has really been a test. It has been a test, and just finding ways to be flexible and adapt. But as far as the industry is concerned, a couple of my friends have been furloughed. Luckily, they did end up getting their jobs back. I don't know anyone who has lost their position completely. And I think, now it's about advocacy. It's about showing, even if you do like a little clip of music, get that up on your school Instagram or something so people can see what you're doing. And it is a challenge, and hopefully I'm still seeing music teacher jobs advertised, so there is hope there. Did I answer the whole question?
Yeah. And actually, for the we're falling a little bit behind. For the sake of time, we'll stick to COVID for this question. You already kind of addressed the requirements and the entry level stuff, how to prepare yourself. So, Amanda, on to you.
Okay. COVID happened. So right now, we can't run all of our programming. It's challenging for our folks. As I mentioned, we work with folks of all ages, all abilities. A lot of them live in group homes, and they don't, if they are not independent enough to use Zoom, they need a staff or house staff to help them, or a family member. And it's been really hard. People are more open to it now. Back in March, a lot of people are saying no. Now they just want something. So we are telehealth. We're using Zoom as a resource. And the sessions are working. At this point, I'm just at the level of let's try and see what happens. So I'm seeing all of my individuals right now. It's about 8 individuals. We've worked that out. I was going in person to 2 individuals that have some highly medical things going on. So they are very careful, but we had to go back to remote because the cases are going up and a lot of towns are in the red. So everything's completely virtual. And we are running our singing with Parkinson's choir, our memory cafes. We are running our community voices choir. But unfortunately, being virtual, we have to keep everyone muted. So learning new repertoire is not possible. So we're singing a lot of familiar songs. At this point, we're just trying to set our folks up for success so they can have meaningful experiences music-wise, depending on the program we're offering. And we're just hoping that we can continue and hopefully see each other in person soon. So that's where we're at.
Awesome. And that's actually a good prelude to the next question. So, in how to be successful. And one aspect of a successful job search is to narrow down your search to warm or hot leads, right? Specific targeted job searching. So on that point, how would you recommend within your particular niche how students would conduct a targeted job search in music?
That answer is so short and easy for me. You talk to the recruiter, and then
There it is.
there it is, right? And then they set you up with a what's called it's called an audition record. It used to be called a liaison. Now they call them audition coordinator, and you could talk to them, and they can give you the whole rundown. They'll fly out. If you pass the first like talking on the phone phase of the the audition, then they'll fly out. They'll give you the actual audition, and then they'll bring those numbers back to Virginia, and then it happens or not.
Cool. Thank you.
And I too have a short answer. So School Spring is a great resource. Also, SEMSA, their website, most of you are familiar with SEMSA in June, or districts, SEMMEA. If you go to their website, they typically post local jobs.
Thank you.
Okay, I think Katie posted it. So Katie posted our national website, AMTA. I also posted our regional website. That will have local jobs. There are jobs out there. Also, if you pursue a degree in music therapy, we're a small world, so you're going to have opportunities going through your internship. I was actually on one job interview and was told about the other job opening. So that's how I stumbled upon my 2 part-time jobs. We're all friends with each other, so there are jobs out there. You'll find them.
Awesome. So we're going to wrap up the guided discussion here. So just from all 3 of you, any final words of wisdom, advice, anything you want to share?
Keep on keeping.
Yep. I'm good. Ready for questions.
Okay, yeah, let's dive right into it. So students, just for the sake of time here, we have a lot of students here. When you're asking a question, just address one of the panelists, just choose one to ask the question to, and then we'll just cycle through. So don't be shy. If you have any questions, please chime in. Laura, I think you're trying. Yeah, you got your hand up. Feel free. I think you're on mute though.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, this is the first time I've done the raising the hand thing because I don't use Microsoft Teams much. So just wanted to see how it worked. Do I like lower my hand now or what?
You can if you'd like, or you could just keep it raised for the rest of the year.
Okay. So this is a question for Miss Fuller. I know you said you don't know what's going to happen for winter, but I know it snowed just before Halloween. So what did you do during that time when there was snow?
Yeah, so good question. So actually it was Halloween, the day that it snowed. So prior to it getting heavy, there's an entryway to our school and it is covered. So we bundled up and we stood at 10 feet apart under that entryway for a little bit, but it got chilly and it was windy. So we ended up having to come in. And so we did some humming, and we did some listening and discussion. I also do a lot of movement, and that particular day I can't remember my lesson plan, but just finding other ways to teach music. I remember the first rainy day, I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And I went back to, even in middle school, the body percussion rainstorm. The kids love that, but just finding other ways to teach music. And we're doing a lot of bucket drumming now. The kids do seem to like that, and drum circle. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Laura, for the question.
Thank you.
Got another hand up. Emma.
All right. It's actually Alex who's asking the question. I know.
Oh, okay.
Peter. And this is for Mrs. Fuller. God, it's hard to call you Jess, having you for 2 years. But I was just curious. I know that you were talking a lot about pre-COVID, but for a lot of us, we have observations and we have to do them over Zoom because we're not allowed in the classroom. What are some things that you teaching now to a classroom that we can observe and still kind of get what you would get with a normal observation, if that makes sense?
So when you're referring to an observation, would it be, so we have remote Mondays, would you want to be part of, say, a remote Monday lesson? Is that while teaching on Zoom?
Yeah, something like that's what I know. I'm currently working with Kelly DePasqua, and that's what I observe in her classes, and that's what I watch her teach over Zoom. So what are some things that you would recommend we take away observing in that kind of situation that will help us when we're out of COVID?
Yeah, so great question. So I have been teaching all my remote lessons synchronously. And as Amanda mentioned, the tricky part is you can't hear the students. So, teaching new repertoire is tricky, but in the situation that I'm in, I have been able to. So one of the things I do, I start off with warm-ups. So if you are going, for choral, and I'm sure a band and string teachers do this as well, you can take out some warm-ups that I use. And various, I sometimes will do some rounds in there, and I'll make a video of me singing one part and I'll sing the other part live to make that work. And I am doing repertoire. And I think what you can take out of that is to show that yes, it's a challenge. There are still ways that you can teach music remotely. And my students have really loved the synchronous teaching as opposed to, here's an assignment, go work on it. So I hope I answered your question. Do you have any follow-up questions to that?
Nope, that basically answered it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thanks, Alex. Anyone else? Questions? Okay, Sarah, you're up.
Okay, so first of all, hi, and thank you guys for coming. So I guess this question could be directed to either Miss Fuller or Miss Reopell, because I know so I am a percussionist, and I heard that you guys were really resorting to percussion to really guide your lessons and therapy sessions. So I wanted to kind of ask, kind of like how you constructed those lessons or therapy sessions, like as like sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought, but like kind of like what made you resort to percussion, first of all, but also second, did you feel prepared in order to do that, especially coming from a choral background and voice background?
I don't know. Do you want to go first, Jess, or do you want me to do it?
You can start, and then I'll take over.
So for music therapy, they want you to have a sense of just like a little intro to percussion, because we do use a lot of percussion and movement because the rhythm is so innate for all of us. I work with a lot of nonverbal folks, so we use percussion a great deal. I can refer to our percussion ensemble. So we'll structure that lesson based on folks' abilities and needs. So we use a lot of djembes, gallon buckets, and sometimes we'll just use body percussion as warm-ups to get people into the music, and just so we're setting our folks up for success. So we use a lot of different things that way, because it gets everybody involved, even our nonverbal folks. So that's why we use it in music therapy, as that's one part.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what Amanda said, the purpose of, in my opinion, of being in an ensemble is to make music, and the more hands-on experiences these kids get, the better. And although I'm not a percussionist, I do feel like I have the skills, that I've gained, even in classes at Bridgewater, or in services that have been held. I feel comfortable doing things like drum circle and bucket drumming. And when I'm not good at something, or I don't get it, I don't say, wow, I stink at this, I'm not going to teach it. I said, I research, I learn, I work to become better. And a lot of teaching is kind of, I don't want to say learning as you go, because you do have to be several steps ahead of the kids, and you don't want to wing it, but it's opened my eyes to a lot of new things. And similar to what Amanda said, it's about making music and finding ways to do that.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Sarah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, just to piggyback, I mean, really with any craft, whether it be music or arts, really it's just about immersing yourself, being hands-on, and just being prepared to self-teach. Usually that's a really powerful tool, just diving in. So 7:55 now, we're going till 8. So this is the last round of questions. I know, Kevin, I think you had your hand up if you want to ask a question, if you still have it, if it wasn't answered already.
I was gonna ask it, but I think it's mainly towards on a one-on-one lessons basis, I guess.
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean, if any of the panelists, if you want to stick around afterwards for one-on-one questions, students, feel free to stick around for that too. So.
hold on. I mean, okay, I guess I could just ask it. I guess I can ask anyone can really answer. Let's say if I were to give a lesson towards a student, or a group lesson for a small class, utilizing the online format we're using now. And this is really just for an opinion base. I was wondering, would you if communication goes well, would you consider using the recording session, the recording feature, as a way of showing progress towards your students? Like, this is it's not something that we get to use on a one-on-one basis. Like, we work with our professors, and just we kind of like see our progression, like just kind of get a feel for it. But I'm losing my train of thought here.
So Kevin, are you asking like on a Zoom call whether you should get into the habit of using the record button to record yourself while you're doing like your music or your lessons to
recording
basic?
Recording. I'm asking you for your opinion, if you would use a recording feature for both you and your student.
Oh, go ahead, Amanda. You going?
Oh no, I saw you going.
Okay. So I haven't used the recording I haven't recorded any of my meets, mainly because a lot of times there's that student confidentiality piece. And I think that when you tell a group of middle school students that you're recording them, they're not going to be as comfortable. But as a self-assessment tool, I mean, you could certainly do that. A lot of times what I'll do is if I'm teaching a student a piece of music or warm-ups, I'll make a video, and there's this new, it's new to me, Screencastify. I use that a lot. I'll make videos, I'll put the lyrics up, and then the kids can go back and practice, because, you know, they're going from Google Meet to Google Meet throughout the day, and they're not necessarily going to remember that warm-up or song you taught them. But I haven't been recording my lessons, but that's certainly a good question.
Awesome. All right, so we're coming to a close. So let's get the last couple questions in, if any. We see any hands? Oh, got a written question here. Let's see. So we got someone typing in, and we have Laura. Let me just make sure have everyone here. Okay. Yep. Laura, go ahead.
Okay, so this is a question I actually have for Miss Vagan. So you posted a link that says, what can I do with this major.com? And I've tried to access that link on Chrome and Firefox and Microsoft Edge, but it keeps redirecting to the info page, and I don't know how else to access it.
So are you logged into the internet, the my.bridgew.edu on your laptop or your computer?
Yeah.
Because if you're logged in through the internet, you should be able to access it. What I can do is I'll send you our sitemap link in the chat as well. And if you click it from the sitemap, it should redirect you properly, but sometimes it's an issue if you're not logged in. Let me just pop that in the chat and you can give it a shot. But feel free if there's questions, Matt, you can move on.
Okay.
Right, I just put that in the chat. So feel free to go to that link, and then off of that site, you should see under the career exploration little tab, what can I do this major? If you click through that, it should help you get there.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
Matt,
so
you're on.
now, so now I see the major part. So view all majors. Okay, it's working now. Thank you.
No problem. And Matt, you're on mute there.
Thank you. Yeah, it was bound to happen eventually. So speaking of the mute button, if everyone could unmute yourselves and just give a little golf clap for our panelists, I'd appreciate it. Thank you all so much for showing up today. And we appreciate you students for showing up too. So thank you for being here today. If there's anything that you want to, like, you know, you might not have retained all the information that you heard today, this video is actually going to be posted to our YouTube account, Career Services, so you'll be able to find it there. And obviously, like I mentioned before, if you have any individual one-on-one questions, please stick around. But if not, you're free to leave. And again, oh, Sarah?
You're not free to leave.
Oh, you're not. Don't leave.
Folks, before you leave, don't forget that to get credit for this, you need to go to the Blackboard page for recital class and fill out the form. And I know this isn't a recital, so the questions you're supposed to address, just kind of make it up. And, you know, when it says, what was your favorite piece or whatever it is, just talk about maybe something that one of our lovely guests said. So as long as you put something in that to make it look like you were there, Dr. Aston and I will definitely approve it. And I also wanted to thank the 3 panelists. I'm very proud of all of you. And I think that my heart just like gets so big when I email you out of the blue. I'm like, can you guys do this? And like a typical BSU or BSC, depending on when you graduated, BSU Bear, you're like, yeah, of course. So thank you so much. You guys have all done great things. And students, you can see that you are never like out of my grasp. Even when you graduate, I like make you come back and do things for me. So, but that means I'm looking out for you all. Anyway, so thank you guys so much. And thank you students for coming. And then sorry, Matthew, you can,
Oh,
I just had
no,
to.
and thank you, Sarah, for helping facilitate and put this together. You know,
That's my
us in
pleasure.
Career Services, we really appreciate it. We appreciate connecting with all departments. So thank you again, panelists, for being here today. And yeah, if any questions, stick around. But if not, now you're free to go.
All right. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course.
We'll watch the numbers go down.
Yeah,
See if
right.
anyone
Right.
sticks
Dr.
around.
McCord. Dr. McCord, can I ask you a question?
Who is that?
This is Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. Yes, you may.
So I send the thing to you, right?
The what thing?
I'm sorry, the performance
For the recital class?
yes.
No, you just upload it. It's like an assignment on Blackboard.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's a thing that says performance 1, performance 2, performance 3. So you just click it and answer the questions.
Okay.
Yep, good question.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, Ryan.
Bye.
I have a quick question. Is Alex still on here? Because there's something I wanted to add to your question.
I was coming to talk to you, so yes, I am.
I was going to, because sometimes after you answer the question, you think a little bit more. Another big thing I'm teaching through Google Meet is technique, which is so important. And there's so many ways, and people teach technique so differently. So that's one thing. And then sight singing. So how you can teach sight singing through, these online platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Jess. Hey, how are you? Lots of familiar faces.
I did have it's kind of a Plymouth specific question, having gone through Plymouth, that I noticed a lot, but you might or might not remember, but in middle school, I had a lot of, my dad could never drive me places. So I had a very hard time. I couldn't participate in theater because I couldn't go. Or I remember I went to the Bruins national anthem sing because you had a bus, but that was about it. And getting into high school, I was able to do more programs and participate in lead Menergy, and that's what has brought me here. But how would you recommend balancing it so that way? Something I noticed a lot is friend groups started to create because people would be after school together, and then you had the people who were passionate about it but couldn't participate otherwise.
Yeah, so I mean that's a really good question. So here's the thing, Alex. You had me a while ago, right? Yeah. But I mean, one of the things that I've tried to work on over the years is, creating a rapport with students so that they're comfortable telling me that, hey, I'm having issues with rides. I'm passionate about this, but it's not working for me. When you're teaching, I teach typically 300 students. Every student really does hold a special place in my heart, but I'm telling students more and more, especially now with COVID and just all the social emotional things going on, we're not mind readers, and to communicate these things. And if you know that there's a student out there that is truly passionate about music, right now what I would do if I had, we were doing theater and I had young Alex that came to me and was like, I really want to be part of this theater, but I can't get a ride. Then I go to guidance and I said, hey, what can we do to help Alex? And together we work to make sure Alex can be part of the program. And we have a lot of kids like that. And I over the years I've gotten to know a lot of Plymouth families and who I can reach out to help rides. But yeah, that's certainly a challenge for a lot of people.
Because I noticed it happen a lot being on the flip side, having been Ben in Menergy and Ben in mixed choir, and seeing people who could only participate in mixed choir or who could only participate in things in school. And you could just see them starting to fall behind, feel like they're not part of the group, or feel like
Of course.
Because they're not staying at school from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. with the same group of people. So it's, to me, having gone through both sides, I want to, in the classroom that I have in the future, create an environment that everyone feels like a part of the family. I know that you can't achieve that all the time, obviously, depending on the group of students you have, but trying to make sure that everyone feels like they have a place and that they belong. Not that I didn't with you, but I'm just saying, like, to make sure that that's a thing.
And I also think that, you know, with a lot of kids, middle school is so tricky, and a lot of kids sometimes will kind of resist, you know, that family kind of, you know, in search of, like, you know, who they are, what they're going to do. But I think just trying to be as encouraging and you know, open to helping students and creating an environment where students feel comfortable to come to you if they need something. You know, I end up mentoring a lot of students in the building. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also think the environment with the high school students is a lot different, because you have different opportunities. You can do a lot more of the late night stuff, but you do have a lot of kids that can drive, and, you know, you guys can help each other out that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. I think those were the two big things that I wanted to ask. So
great. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. It was so nice seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, thank you for asking.
Oh,
I'm a new mom. I looked forward to this.
I was
even more so.
At one point, I heard a young child, and I thought, okay, like, which one? Because I know
Yep.
we pretty much all have young children on this call. So
yeah, he's downstairs, so if you heard him, that's pretty loud.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
It's probably
for mine to
Jack
bust
or
through the door.
Probably.
Tommy usually makes an appearance, and I say, why do you always come, you know, when I'm on Zoom, but you leave Daddy alone when he's on Zoom? And he said, because mommy students are nicer. I'm like, that's true.
All right.
My students are awesome.
There you go.
Especially the ones who have graduated and come back and do things.
Yeah, anytime.
Always.
Awesome.
I want another ukulele day when we can. That was
yes.
fun.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's get over this COVID thing.
Yeah,
so we could do it.
I know.
All in this
I'm
together.
I'm an optimist, you know.
Any day. All right. Well, have a good night, you guys.
Hey, thank you so much again for the video. Let's get a little wave package. Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Matthew.
Bye.
Thanks for organizing it.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Katie. Bye.
Thank you.